Welcome to Street Stories, a podcast of real, raw, and unfiltered stories of homelessness told by Skip Finkfish, founder and pastor of Word on the Street Homeless Ministries. Please be advised these stories are for a mature audience. Our goal is to bring you as close to the reality of homelessness as we can, one story at a time.
Moved to Orlando in 1990 from Atlanta, or north of Atlanta, Kennesaw, Canton, Georgia. I was heavily involved in Shallow Hills Baptist Church and Christian School and Baptist University in Georgia. And then when that came to an end, the Lord brought us to Orlando, to the Master's Academy, and after about a year or so to Faith Baptist Church, where I was for 17 years. When I was at the Master's Academy, I was the Dean of Students and the Fine Arts Director and the Senior Bible Teacher and all that kind of good stuff. I was also the janitor of the school, and there was a student there by the name of Chris. I won't tell you his last name, but his first name was Christopher, and he went by Chris. And I knew him as a student, as it wasn't a real big school, and so I got to know the students really well. So go ahead about, I don't know how many years. I've had Word on the Street for 18 years now, so however long, or we're in the 18th year, however, when about 15, 16 years ago, whatever date that was, and however far that is from 1990. I should have done the math. I ran into a homeless guy, and turns out it was Chris. Chris had what I call a life-changing event without a net. No siblings, and living as a young man in an apartment with his mother in Orlando. And he was out during the day, and this was after high school. He was out during the day, and when he came home, his mother was gone, and the apartment was empty. No word, no contact, no information. She was just gone. And everything in the apartment was gone. And he was alone and ended up on the street. And had been homeless for several years when I first met him on the street. He recognized me right away. I did not recognize him. We started the conversation. When he approached me and he referred to me as Mr. F. All students, previous students from, I think, 6 different schools and whatever, all refer to me as Mr. F. So it was obvious that he was a student because nobody else typically refers to me as Mr. F. We became really good friends when I learned who it was and that he was homeless, and he exposed to me where his camp was. And he was in a camp of someone that I knew that had set the camp up many years earlier, actually a treehouse camp, sort of a treehouse, a platform with a little building on it. And he was living in there about half a mile off of the road, real skinny, windy path back into the woods. And Chris is a big, strong guy. I mean, a big, strong guy, and barrel-chested and arms. And he worked out every day. his gym was the woods. His gym was the camp, in the camp. And he had big tree limbs and tree trunks. And I would go back with my chainsaw and cut portions of tree trunks and portions of large tree limbs. And that's what he worked out with. So, like, he's curling oak tree limbs and pressing oak tree limbs. And then he had these oak sections, 10, 12-foot sections of oak tree trunks. And he's deadlifting stuff, and he's going over, and bend down and put your hands underneath it and pull it up to your chest, that kind of stuff. And working out with trees, working out with tree limbs and trunks. And a strong fella. He was bipolar, schizophrenic, and could turn on a dime. I took him into an Arby's one day for lunch, the two of us, and we were sitting at the table and we were talking in normal conversation, and he stood up and the chair shoved back, and he looked at me and he just started screaming, "Make him stop, make him stop." Well, the people in the restaurant are freaking out, and I didn't freak out. I knew him, and I knew, because I deal with various kinds of things when it comes to people. And I stood up with him and I just started talking to him in a normal voice. And Chris, we're at Arby's. We're here together. We're having some lunch. Whatever you're hearing isn't here. Focus in on me and this situation. And anyway, he came back and sat down, and we kept eating. That happened a couple of different times. One day I was on the sidewalk on the road, and he came walking towards me and did the same thing. He came to me, and I didn't realize that there was someone behind me, and it was someone that was behind me that he was angry with. And he's walking towards me, and I stopped and I stepped in front of him, and he looked at me and he said, I don't want to hurt him, but they're telling me to hurt him. They don't want to hurt him, but they're telling me to hurt him. And I said, "Chris, just stay right here in front of me," because I knew he wouldn't hurt me. At least I was pretty confident he wouldn't hurt me. Could have, if he wanted to. And again, brought him back over a little bit of time. There was one Sunday, he's usually very, 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 very faithful to the Sunday dinner. A fun thing about Chris was that he played the clarinet. Or he thought he played the clarinet. And I played clarinet. I've been playing since I was actually 5 years old. But anyway, he had a clarinet, and he'd get it, and he would get it out when I would go into his camp. He'd get it out and he'd put it together. And he'd run his fingers up and down, and he'd play music, songs for me. It was just stuff that he was making up, and he was just making all kinds of for me when I was in the camp. It was fun. So much fun to see him get that joy from that. And he would bring it occasionally to the Sunday dinner and play while we were setting up. He'd play music while we were setting up the tables. But he was very, very, very... it was important to him when I taught. This was a Christian school. Chris knew Christ. Chris had a lot of struggles in his life, but I'm very confident that he knew Christ or knows Christ. But Chris had no fuse. He had no fuse. He just went from 0 to 100. And so this one day I'm teaching, and somebody sitting over to my left was taunting me. It happens from time to time. And they were repeating some of the things that I was saying and changing their voice and kind of mocking me while I was teaching over here. I'm doing my best to not give them any attention whatsoever because I don't want to draw attention to them. Across way over here on the right is Chris. And all of a sudden, Chris yells across the crowd, "Shut the fuck up!" to this guy. And I'm like, oh man, this might not turn out so well. The guy keeps going. Chris stood up, walked across in front of me, between me and the people, walked across and bent over to the guy. I'm not condoning this. I'm just letting you know that this is a possibility. He bent down, he put an arm over top of the guy's shoulders, came down and put an arm underneath between the guy's legs, and picked him up like a piece of cotton above his head, and professional wrestling body slammed him on the ground and pointed his finger at him and looked down at his face and told him again, "I told you, shut the fuck up." Stands up, turns around, walks over, sits back down in his place and looks at me like, "Go on." You never know what's going to happen. It's part of ministry. We call it ministry. Show up, lift up the name of Christ, move on, and repeat. Now, like I say, I'm not condoning that, but I'm saying that if you are going to step into actual, real live ministry in people's lives, you need to be ready for whatever a response might happen to be. And you need to be praying for wisdom and understanding, and that you need to really, Scripture says, love God, all of your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and others as much as you love yourself, including the Chris's. Because that's a human being created in the image of God, knows God, but is dealing with, we'll say, hard times and hard situations. Chris, the only thing that I know, doesn't drink. The only thing that I know that he does is over-medicates on cough syrup. I'm not trying to give you an idea, but there are several cough syrups that have a particular ingredient in them that can be bought at the dollar store for $1, and if you down the whole bottle, you'll get off. That's one of the only things that I've ever known that Chris has been involved in as far as something like that is concerned. Fortunately, very, 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 very fortunately, several years back, quite a few years back, Chris asked me, could I help him find his mother? And I said, yes. I've helped a number of people find their families that they have been estranged from over the years because of whatever situation, and they became homeless. I helped him find his mom in Indiana. He has been to visit with her a couple of times, and she and I have become friends through Messenger and through Facebook. And Chris, now as we speak, is actually in a group home setting with other men. He's getting help, and he's making progress. Because you see, before, when he was going through whatever situation he was going through, he would get arrested or whatever, and he would get Baker acted, and they would send him to the same place where they send all of those people. I'm not going to name it. It's in Orlando. And their answer is pump them full of stuff to calm him down. And so when I would see Chris, when he'd get back out of there for a week, and he'd be walking down the sidewalk, and it would be like this. He's just looking at the ground, and he looks zombie material, totally wasted. Prescription. That wears off. And then real life comes back. So fortunately, I haven't seen Chris in a while, but I know that he's in a place, I know that he's getting help, and I know that he is increasing in health and in instability mentally and physically and emotionally, and I'm really glad for that. So from that perspective, we have a good story. We have a young man who has been through a lot, and he's hardcore homeless, bathing in the creek and, just absolutely hardcore homeless. But he's reconnected with his mother. He's getting help now, and he is my friend, and I am his friend. And I'm blessed to have him in my life and men like him. God bless you, Chris.
Thank you for watching this episode of Street Stories, brought to you by Word on the Street Homeless Ministries. Please follow us on Facebook at WOTS for Homeless and subscribe to our YouTube channel at WOTS for Homeless. If you would like to learn more information about our ministry here in Orlando, Florida, you can visit us at wotsforhomeless.com. And if you would like to be a monthly donor or give a one-time donation, you can visit wotsforhomeless.com/give. Thank you.